Hi everybody, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel, and today I am going to be reviewing The Search by Nora Roberts. I just want to put out a disclaimer that although I did not enjoy this book, Nora Roberts is one of my favorite authors, but she is extremely prolific, and when that happens, it's inevitable that there are going to be some occasionally that'll pop up that aren't as good as the rest, and that is this one for me. I'm in no way talking down about this author's work. I normally enjoy her greatly. This just particular book wasn't enough to really keep me invested. That being said, I'll go ahead and jump right into the review. I will do a non-spoilery section to start off with, and then I'll switch to a spoilery section that you can click off of if you don't want any spoilers for this. But I'll let you know when that's coming, so don't worry about that. But The Search is a 3-star read for me, and that might sound pretty average to most people, but I very rarely go under a 3-star. It has to be absolutely horrific for me to do that. So for me, a 3 is a low rating. This story has a lot of issues that I personally found in it. This is the story of a woman named Fiona Bristow who survived a serial killer who was called the Red Scarf Killer 7 years before, and he was called the Red Scarf Killer because he would force his victims to dig their own grave, and then he would tie them up with a red bow after he killed them and leave them in the shallow grave to be found. She escaped him, and he plotted revenge or whatever and wanted to make her pay, so he killed her fiance at the time. And that slip up is actually what got him arrested. Now, fast forward 7 years, and these killings are happening again, but the man is still in prison. And the police believe that it's a copycat killer or somebody that he has personally picked to continue his work, so to speak. And everybody believes that she's unfinished business. She is going to be the next target. On the surface, it was a very, very good premise. I liked the plot. That intrigued me. That's why I picked this up in the first place. That being said, this character's main profession is canine search and rescue. I just want to make a note that I am not against that profession at all. I think it's absolutely wonderful that there are people out there that devote their time and devote their energy to this cause. I think it's a wonderful thing. And I had no problem with this character having this profession. But it took over the story. And what I mean by that is a very, very good chunk of this book is basically an instructional on how to train dogs. And I can acknowledge on one point that Nora Roberts did a lot of research, and she wanted to incorporate everything that she found out about this specific skill, because she always throws herself into her stories no matter what she writes. She always goes into detail over things like that and brings attention to it. But in this case, it really felt like it was overboard, and it was just like, it seemed like every other chapter it was how to get a dog to not jump on you, how to get a dog to not be aggressive, how to get a dog to follow a scent. And like, I mean, it was like step-by-step instructions constantly. And yes, these dogs were used at an integral part of the book. I'll get to that in the spoilery section. But it still felt like it was overkill. It was overshadowing the mystery aspect. They didn't even really get into the mystery until maybe halfway through the book, other than a mention here and there of her past. Once it got to that point, it picked up a little bit, but even then, it seemed like it was an afterthought until the climax. I did enjoy the ending. I thought the ending was very well executed, and that part I couldn't put down. The rest of the book, though, this took me so long to read, and ordinarily that's not the case for me. And I just kept setting this aside for other things. And that's what I think the problem is. It was not holding my attention at all. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the spoilery section, so I'll, put an alert on the screen or whatever. So make sure to click off if you don't want to be spoiled for the next part. Okay, there is an overwhelming love arch storyline in this book between Fiona and a man named Simon Doyle. And you're supposed to root for this couple. It's made very clear from the beginning. And my biggest issue with this pairing is, one, it's extremely insta-love. And if it's done in a certain way, that doesn't always bother me to the same extent that it bothers other people, but in this case it really, really did, because they are not well suited. And quite frankly, the Simon character is very sexist. He is controlling. I know that in books that are marketed in romance, even when there's a suspenseful story involved or whatever, that is a common trait among the male interests or whatever, but I just don't understand promoting that. I mean, at least Fiona in the book is very headstrong, and she's very independent, and she calls him on it a lot, so she doesn't just take the stuff laying down, but she still puts up with it, and that's just something I cannot get on board with. Something that drove me crazy was he was constantly saying, like from the beginning almost, from their very first meeting, that she was not his type, that he didn't want her, and all of this stuff. Like, she should be grateful that he was interested in her in the first place, was kind of what I got out of it. And that really got under my skin, because it's like, first off, it's not true. That was, to me, was a major case of telling instead of showing, because like what the book was saying was that he was very drawn to her from the beginning, despite the fact that he says these things. And it just, the number of times that was said just had me rolling my eyes. It's like, really? And like when the danger starts coming along with the killings and stuff, like he's telling her what she's going to be doing. Like she's coming to his house or he's coming to her house. Like she runs this business, this canine search and rescue business, and he'll tell her that she's either going to not have the classes or he's going to be there. At one point, like he told her that he called one of her coworkers to take over, and she asked him, like, who the hell do you think you are? And I forget exactly what was said. I should have tabbed it. But he said something along the lines of, if you don't let her do it and you try to work, I'm going to cause a scene that neither of us wants. Like, he was very manipulative in that way. And I just could not root for this pairing. At one point I actually thought it might have been him. That is how badly matched they were, I felt. Now I'm going to go ahead and go on to the ending. Ending, for the most part, I thought was well done, although it did take a while for the pieces to come together to get to that spot. The man who was responsible for all of this is a man by the name of Perry, and he's still in the prison. And what he had done was he had chosen a proxy of sorts in a man by the name of Francis Eckel. And he wanted to train this guy to continue on with his work. Like, tell him how to choose the women, how to do the abductions, how to be patient, like that it was like an art form. He wanted him to do all of this, and of course, take care of Fiona. The problem was that this guy got a taste for it after the first couple of kills and went off the rails and started doing his own thing. And like as an afterthought, he would throw the red scarves on. But he wasn't following the pattern at all. He was just going off of the sheer mean drive to kill. And I didn't have a problem with that because like it really showed like psychosis, the psychotic nature of how people like this can be. My issue with it, though, is how this became possible in the first place. Eckel was a teacher. He did a couple of lectures at the prison that Perry sat in on, and that was how they met. Perry was apparently known for being a model prisoner. He never got in trouble, did what he was supposed to do. So my question in this way of thinking is, why would a man who has done so much to make himself look like a model prisoner that he would risk everything and approach a employee, teacher no less, at the prison about continuing on with his work? The fact that that Eckel is crazy and was able to do it, to me, is inconsequential. Like I'm trying to get into the mind of these characters, and I don't see realistically why a man like Perry would even take that risk in the first place. You would think that they would want to use maybe another prisoner that's getting out, or, you know, something along those lines. Not somebody if they have no clue if they have a good background or not, whether or not they're a good person. How could he know he wasn't going to get turned in and make his sentence go even longer? Like, it just seemed extremely out there, and like the police had a hard time proving his involvement to begin with, because his communication was monitored, and like they said, like the only person that ever came to visit him was his sister, and like he didn't have any mail coming and going. So it's like, how does this guy know where to pick his victims? How does he know where to bury them? How are they communicating? Clearly they're communicating somehow, but if he doesn't have visitors and there's no mail coming out, how does that happen? I'll tell you how that happens, because it was explained in the book, and it was extremely out there, in my personal opinion. These men used the minister at the prison to smuggle out letters. I'm not saying that that is impossible by any means. It just seems extremely unlikely that a minister, a man of God, would break rules in such a way to help a very notorious serial killer send out mail secretly. Now, like they said that the minister was duped and that he believed that Perry was sending letters to members of a prayer group. If that was the case, if there was nothing to hide, why wouldn't he just send them out the traditional way? And this never seemed to occur to the minister. And I just find that extremely far-fetched, considering he knew the environment that he was working in. Like, that it would never cross his mind that something's not right about this. Something's underhanded. If there's nothing to hide, why wouldn't he just mail it out regularly? So, yeah, 3-star read. It's very well researched. That's a positive. And the writing style itself is beautiful, as always with her work. But the story was maybe 30% mystery, 70% search and rescue. And there was just a lot of issues with the mystery aspect of it, in my personal opinion. So that is The Search by Nora Roberts. I probably will not read this one again. I'm not going to say with absolute certainty, but I don't see myself picking this up again in the future. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. If you liked this video, please make sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.